Hello and welcome back to the Tyler Moore East, where today we're going to be looking a lot more in detail at the background of the Farooqui family who owns the Farooqui Department Store here in Pistoria. This is their beautiful estate, and today we will see how it was built and all of the wondrous things about it. We'll learn about how the family came to Pistoria. We'll learn about the background of the shop. And we're going to learn a little bit about their future plans for this estate that they have here up on the new hilltop of Farooqui Estates, looking out over the city of Pistoria. Thank you so much for joining me here again in the Tyler Moore East. I'm so glad you could join me. This is going to be a beautiful episode with lots of lush gardens, so do prepare yourself. Now, the Farooqui family came to the Tyler Moore back in the 1980s, all the way from Islamabad, Pakistan. They had a pretty quiet life there. They had decided, Hamza and Zainab, after they were married, decided to move to the new city of Islamabad and open a shop. They lived above it. They were moderately successful. They raised a son, and everything was just fine and dandy until the 80s. Their son grew up. He got married. He married the daughter of a not famous politician who ended up being embroiled in a scandal. And this scandal was really bad for the Farooqi's business. It reflected poorly on them, even though they had nothing to do with it. So because it was a federal politician, there was nowhere in the country the Farooqis could go to escape this new reputation they weren't deserving of. So they decided to pack up and move to a new place for new opportunity. And within a year of moving to the Tyler Moore, they had a stand in the Crystal Palace in Isabella where they could rent it monthly, and they sold men's shoes. Now, very quickly they became so successful they expanded into multiple booths and soon had their own storefront out in Stanton. Now, they were living in downtown Isabella, not too far from the Crystal Palace, in a rented apartment. Running their shop out in Stanton was a heck of a commute for them, and not what they had in mind when they decided to move to a quieter place and have a simpler life without so much, so many things dogging them and a specter hanging over them everywhere they went. But now they were commuting long ways through a very busy city, and the straw that broke the camel's back was when the university riots happened, and Hamza and Zainab were trapped in their store in Stanton where the rioting was at its most intense. And their son was stuck at home alone. He was just a kid still then at the time. So it was a pretty traumatic experience for them, and they decided it was time to make a change. And they worked very hard to expand their business over the years, and eventually, by the end of the 1990s, had built a brand new department store in downtown Pistoria that was developing quite quickly. And they developed a great reputation in the whole of the Tyler Moore for providing quality, sensible goods that weren't too luxurious or over the top, were not outrageously priced, were not produced in a sweatshop somewhere far away, but good quality, well-made products you could invest your money in, would last a long time, but would not cost you a lot of money. A very sensible retailer were the Farooqis. So they really quickly became well known throughout the Moor as being sort of the number one retailer. They had so much from all of this now that they purchased one of the old manor houses up in Pfister Heights and decided to turn it into a beautiful pastoral land, much different than the rented apartment in downtown Isabella, where they had their beginnings. In the city, they decided this great estate was not going to be so much a big fancy house, but a great guest space with beautiful gardens where they could host people for garden tours. People could get their wedding pictures taken, almost like a small private park for the community, basically, just to offer a nice little respite space and a natural outdoor area for people to enjoy in a part of Pistoria where we don't really have parks. It's really just a quiet neighborhood up on the hill. So this is sort of the parkland for the area, thanks entirely to the Farooqui family. In the future, they're going to be expanding the garden into a bunch of different areas of different themes, different types of gardens, and it's going to become a bit of a garden theme park. And we're just going to take a brief moment to listen to a message from the Farooqui Department Store.
Spring is coming soon, and you're going to want to enjoy it. That means you'll need something to sit on while making shapes out of the clouds. You'll need a table to serve that barbecue on, and you'll need something more comfortable in the ground if you plan to tan. That's why at Farooqui, we're putting all patio furniture on sale. That's right, in season and on sale. We've got folding lawn chairs that won't leave you in a pinch. Patio sets for 2, 4, 8 or more. We have lounge chairs with cup holders, lounge chairs with wheels, lounge chairs with padding. We even have lounge chairs with Bluetooth capability for, well, we don't really know what you'd use Bluetooth for on a lounge chair, but if you want 'em, we've got 'em. So hurry on over to the outdoor furnishings department on our 4th floor before these deals melt away with the snow.
You'll find it at Farooqui.
So Zainab Farooqui is a really big gardener, and she wanted more than anything to build the garden of her dreams in their new home. She wanted it to be almost like a farm in the middle of the city. So she made sure to design it with the best quality, top-notch everything she could find. She had a potting shed built from refurbished stone that came from an old church that had crumbled and been taken down, and these were going to be thrown into a refuse pile, and she rescued them to be reused in this lovely potting shed that really lends a lot of character to the backyard. And also these other sheds here that house a lot of gardening equipment, but also a place to keep plants for overwintering. Such things as geraniums and whatnot do quite fine if they're kept indoors in a pot over winter time. So that larger shed there is sort of her overwintering plant shed, but built out of sustainable cedar wood from a local source over in the foggy forest. And she has a few different beds. She's going to have one that is all for edible plants. There are going to be corn. There's going to be all kinds of produce in there. There's going to be another that is more for scented things like lavender. There are going to be lemon trees that will smell lovely when they're blooming. And then there's also going to be a bed that is simply for flowers to gaze at. Beautiful meadow flowers, a few cacti in there. It's going to be just a lovely assortment. And then in the back part of the garden, there's going to be a small fruit orchard where we're going to be growing some apples and pears, and eventually, hopefully, some other kinds of fruit trees. But over time, this entire garden area is going to expand all across the yard of the Farooqui Estate, and it's really going to become a beautiful showpiece. It is going to make for some wonderful gardening episodes that you're definitely going to want to tune in for, so be sure to keep your eye open when you see any kind of updates on Zainab Farooqi's garden. Going to make sure to make it look a bit realistic, people are going to be working around these flower beds, so there isn't going to be much grass growing because there are going to be all kinds of people working back here in this garden, and it's definitely not going to be the place for a green lawn. So I'll pepper in some little pathways and footpaths, but nothing too formal, because it's going to be in development for quite some time, and to lay down a concrete path right across the entire yard would be really limiting my future options. Going to try to find some more suitable beds, something that's raised up a bit higher than just a normal parking lot planter, because these are gardening boxes that the higher up they are off the ground, number one, makes for better drainage for water, and number two, is much easier on the gardener's back, so they don't have to bend over quite so far, especially if they're older and have some back problems, or they wish to avoid getting back problems. A raised flower bed or garden bed is a much more ergonomic option than gardening directly on the ground. So at least I've found some good options here with this raised bed. Now I'm planting the corn. I really don't think a garden can have too much corn. It's one of those things, it's a vegetable that pretty much everybody loves. Doesn't have the most nutrition in it for a vegetable, but it is super delicious and super useful as a starch. You can dry it and grind it up and make tortillas out of it. There are tons of uses for corn. If you yourself won't eat all the corn in your garden, chances are the people you know will be happy to take it off your hands. I'm going to make sure I detail it with some gardening supplies as well. We can't just have a garden where everything is kept in the shed. The compost heap, for instance, which I'm trying to create here, does not belong indoors. That is something that goes in a corner outside, behind the lowliest shed in the bunch, where hopefully we won't have to smell it, because the lavender will be blooming so wonderfully because of this compost that we'll only be able to smell the wonderful flowers. Planting some sunflowers here, and now getting into more of the decorative things in this one corner bed here. Some lovely yellow flowers. I'm not sure what they are. To me, they look like what in my area is known as tick seed, which is a beautiful plant of yellow, sort of daisy-like flowers on long stems that have a tendency to bob around in the wind in a really beautiful way. So putting lots of those in Zainab's garden. One thing I really wanted to include in this garden that I could not find, unfortunately, on the Steam Workshop was a prickly pear. I thought it would be a really lovely thing to be able to farm prickly pears in your garden, but I could not find any, so I opted for another type of cactus. I also added in some hollyhocks here, which is fitting because just in the bed across the way I planted some holly bushes. So in December, Zainab will be able to make lots of lovely wreaths for the community, either as gifts or as a side hustle. I'm sure you could probably sell those at the department store in a blink of an eye. who wouldn't want a holly wreath hanging on their door during the holidays? Some more fruit trees, a few oranges, a lily tree on either side of the fence here, sort of like the lions guarding the library door. You've got lilies guarding the garden gate. And now we get into the orchard. Some really lovely decorative blooming pear trees here, and then a bunch of apples as well. So we have a variety of different tree fruits. I would really love to see plums and peaches and especially tropical fruits that we really don't have in the game, like mangoes and papayas. We do have a banana tree, and we do have orange trees and lemon trees at least. But I really am missing those plums and peaches. I would love to have a peach farm somewhere in my city someday. Who knows? City Skylines 2 has not been released yet. Hopefully people will continue making things for City Skylines and not just drop off the map until City Skylines 2 comes along. Hopefully we still have more lovely developments for our gardens here. And the lovely pond in the front is going to get a water jet. So we have a lovely water feature, and it also acts as a secondary place for aerial firefighters to load up to go fight some forest fires. It makes for a lovely water feature when you drive past it. And now comes the luxury pool, which I had quite a bit of difficulty deciding which pool to use. I have a lot, and I knew I wanted a hot tub to be included in it. So let's see how I go about this. Okay, so I found a lovely pool, and instead of having a hot tub included, I just simply placed a hot tub prop with some foaming steam effects on top of it, right in the middle there of that little peninsula. I think that makes for a lovely pool. I'm not a big fan of pools, especially not in-ground pools. They're kind of an environmental terrible thing to do, but if you're going to have a pool, or if you're going to buy a house that has a pool, this is the ideal kind to have. One that is wonderful for doing laps if you're interested in the exercise, and one that's perfect for relaxing as well, and one with plenty of space for entertaining. I'm going to jazz it up a bit with some of Padelmo's cypress trees. Try to spiff it up, make it look a bit like the Greek gods live here. And that's about going to wrap it up for this lovely Farooqui Estate, and soon you will be able to see more about Pfister Heights and all of its lovely developments up here on the top hill in Pistoria in the Tylermore East. Thank you so much for joining me again here. I really do enjoy having you. Stop by soon. See more beautiful places here up in Pfister Heights. Thank you. Take care, and I'll see you soon. Bye-bye.